One of the focuses of this course is to always apply what we are learning to how we might see it in the real world. So in this case, in the application of decimals, we didn't have to work very hard to find that because money obviously happens in decimal form quite often. So for instance, if I have an account that I have $582.20 and I have to pay rent, buy some gas, get paid, and get some groceries, let's see at the end of August 7th how much money I have left. So first, I'm going to pay rent, which obviously is a debit to my account. Debit meaning we are taking away. I'm going to subtract 0 minus 0, 2 minus 0, 2 minus 0, 8 minus 0, and 5 minus 4. So after my first transaction, I have $182.20. I also have to buy gas, so I'm going to subtract $37.56 to see what I have left after that. I can't take 6 away from 0, so I have to borrow. 10 minus 6 is 4. 1 minus 5 doesn't work, so I have to borrow again. 11 minus 5 is 6. 1 minus 7 doesn't work, so I have to borrow yet again to get 11 minus 7. So 11 minus 7 is 4. 7 minus 3 is 4, and 1 minus nothing is 1. And that's what I have left after I buy gas. Now I'm going to get paid. Yay! So I'm going to take my $144.64 and add $849.02. So we're adding these values together. That would be 6 and 6. 9 plus 4 is 13. And 9 and 9. So now, a little bit better off, we have $993.66. And now I'm going to have another debit because I'm hungry and need groceries. So $993.66 minus $87.96. And when we're done, we will have our final answer. So 6 minus 6 is 0. I'm going to have to borrow to make that 16. 16 minus 9 is 7. 2 minus 7 doesn't work, so we borrow. 12 minus 7 is 5. 8 minus 8 is 0. And 9 minus nothing is 9. Now, we talked previously about decimals and how we didn't really need a 0 here. This is our one exception. When we're dealing with decimals that represent money, we always write money to the hundredths place because that's a penny, essentially. So my answer is $905.70 that I would have at the end of August 7th. Here's another application question. I am trying to find the perimeter of the figure as well as the missing measures. So I can see that I have all these sides, but I don't know what happens here and I don't know what happens here. So let's take a look. I know that if this whole side, and this is a rectangular base essentially, that I'm missing this distance and this distance, but I know that this distance and this distance would be the same because it's a rectangle, and this distance and this distance would be the same because it's a rectangle. So if the entire length is 11.6, then that means this entire length is 11.6. So if I take 11.6 and I subtract 5 from that, I end up with 6.6, which is what this distance would have been, which means that's what this distance is, 6.6. Same thing's going to happen here. The entire side is 12.4. This whole side would have also been 12.4. So 8.2 taken away from 12.4 would give me whatever is left over, and that gives me 4.2. So that means from here to here, the distance is 4.2. So that's the missing measures, the two measures that I didn't have. Now we're finding the perimeter of the figure. I can do this two different ways. If I want, I can add 11.6, 12.4, 5, 4.2, 6.6, 8.2. I'm very lazy and I don't want to have to work that hard. What I know about this figure is that this whole side is 11.6 and that this whole side is 5 and 6.6, which together is 11.6. So I'm going to add 11.6 twice. because these two already added to 11.6. And if we know how to multiply decimals, I would already just be multiplying, but that's okay. This side's 12.4, and this side plus this side is 12.4. So I'm going to add 12.4 again twice because there's two sides. Would I get the same answer if I took the 6.6 and the 5 and the 4.2 and the 8.2 instead? Of course, but I'm lazy, so I'm going to do it this way. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 4 is 16, plus 4 is 20, so I put the 0, and the 2. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 48. Now, when we write what the perimeter of the figure is, we would say 48 inches. So whenever we're dealing with a story problem, always make sure that there's a label involved and that the label makes sense. Here's a question for you to try on your own. So press pause, then press play to see how you did. In this case, we have a gas company charging us $47.98 for gas and a service fee of $13.72. And we had a credit of $19.28. So we're trying to figure out how much we owe the gas company. So that we have to figure out which ones are we going to add together, which ones are going to subtract. So we know our bill will be anything that is owed. So what we owe is the $47.98 for gas and the $13.72 for our service fee, because you know they like to get those fees. So we're going to add these together first. That's how much we're going to owe. 8 plus 2 is 10. 1 plus 9 plus 7 is 17. Add those together, I get 11, and I get 6. So my bill is $61.70. Now let's take a look at what this means. I have a service credit of $19.28, which means maybe I had overpaid 1 month, or maybe they're being nice, whatever. Probably not just being nice. But that's going to take away from how much I owe. So now I'm going to subtract that $19.28 from the total. And to subtract, I'm going to need to borrow. 10 minus 8 is 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. I have to borrow to subtract 9 from 1. So 11 minus 9 is 2. And 5 minus 1 is 4. And so even though my bill was $61.70, I owe $42.42.